What is up, Saints? I'm back with another Christian Man Reacts video, where if you've been watching, you know the intent of my content is to present good and wholesome entertainment. Whether or not I do, that's up to you. Alright, so we're back at it again. It's a new year, it's a new month. So we're done with the metal music month that we hit throughout December. I didn't get to do enough of the videos. At least I didn't do as many as I wanted. But we did get to listen to some really good music. Hopefully I got to introduce you to some great Christian metal bands. We worked through Theocracy, Sleeping Giant, Wolves at the Gate, did some Cutlass, and then at the end there we hit the Great Commission. So there was still several that I wanted to get to, but we just ran out of time, and you know, I'd set it in my heart that I was going to do it for a month. So here we are now in January 2021. We're going to get back on the rotation of looking at other subjects as well. And so if you've been watching my videos for any length of period of time here, you know the red hat means we're doing some preaching. Good, solid, biblical preaching. And I was just creating a list. I was looking through, like, who could I look at? You know, and of course we've looked at a big selection of preachers already. You know, we've looked at, I don't know, 6, 7 different biblical sound preachers. And so I wanted to add to that list, like, who else could we look at here? And the reason I say that is because there's just not a whole lot of solid preaching that I trust out there. There's a handful of guys that I know are the real deal, that are called by God, that have a burden to preach the true gospel and actually do so, actually put it out there. There's just a handful that we can trust. That's not to say there's not a 1,000 good preachers out there on a small scale in local communities. I'm just saying it's rare to find a really good, solid biblical preacher. So, you know, within our generation, we got maybe 10 or 12 that I can count on. You go back in time and you find some more that you can add to that list. But then it becomes, can you find audio of them, or can you find somebody reproducing their transcripts into audio? So anyways, I'm kind of rambling here, but I've got a list, and one of the guys that's been impressing me lately, that I've really enjoyed listening to, is Martyn Lloyd Jones. And Professor Jones, I mean, he was a doctor. I don't know if he went by professor. I suppose pastor's a higher title, so we'll call him Pastor Jones. But he's one of these guys. If you listen to anybody else, R.C. Sproul, John MacArthur, John Piper, probably, you know, anybody that Brian Borgman, anybody that we appreciate and that's really preaching the gospel nowadays, they'll often reference how Martyn Lloyd Jones influenced them, how they consider Martyn Lloyd Jones to be a great preacher. And I've read some of his sermons. I got several of his books on my shelves, and I think all the I don't think he ever actually wrote a book. His books are just collections of his sermons, but they're really, really good. And for years, I've tried to listen to his sermons. I think he died in the 80s, so I think what we're listening to is going to be from the previous generation, the early 1900s. Through that period of time, I think he was preaching during World War II. I've heard some of that stuff, I believe, but I forgot what my point was there. Oh, so in years past, I've tried to get into him just based on the fact that so many others talk so highly of him. And when you listen to his audio, he's got, you know, a thick British accent, and I'm not a fan of the British accent. And then it's kind of, there's no pomp and circumstance with his style. There's no entertainment value. There's no fluff. There's no joking around. There's no brevity. It's just he's just a straightforward. Here's my text. Here's what you need to see in this text. And his tone can often be on the recordings where if you're not paying careful attention, you'll just kind of drown it out. It'll fade into the background. And I listen to a lot of sermons while I'm working. And so often they do just fade into the background. I'm focused on work and I just got that going in the background. So I was discouraged by that and just kind of moved on from Martyn Lloyd Jones for a long time. But now recently I've come back to him and I've been really, really enjoying what I'm listening to. And I've developed a personal habit in my life while I'm working, listening to a sermon. I say to myself, if I can pick up one golden nugget, if I can get one really good truth out of this sermon, I'll consider it a victory. You know, as long as I can get something out of it. Because, like I say, a lot of times you just can't pay attention to every word being spoke. But when you are paying attention to Jones, when you're focused in on what he's speaking, he's a real gospel preacher. He's very, very intelligent man, very familiar with the Word of God and able to unpack it and show you what's in it. And so I've just come to really appreciate him, really enjoy him. And I'm just getting started on Martyn Lloyd Jones. I've got, like I say, a bunch of books I'm going to plan on reading, and Lord willing, if he gives me more time, and I'm going to be listening to more and more of his sermons. But he's just a really good, solid biblical preacher, and I've just come to enjoy his stuff. And so without further ado, we're going to jump into a little clip here, a little 6-minute clip of his, and see what we can discover in that. So I got the Polar Seltzer water, cherry pomegranate flavor. We're ready to go. Let's do this. All right, so this clip here is called Do You Have His Presence? So this sounds like a self-examination. I don't know if the whole sermon is about self-examination, but this clip definitely is. And those are honestly like probably my favorite types of sermons because we need that in the church body as a whole. We live in a time and a culture where there's a whole host of people calling themselves Christians that don't really show the fruit of the Spirit, that don't show that they really have been born again. And we ourselves are often so stuck in sin and struggling against our sin that we constantly need to test our own hearts and say, am I really his, or is this just, am I just making a religious profession of faith? Do I really belong to him? Am I really born again? So I enjoy these types of messages. This was uploaded by a feller named Miguel Davila, and it says here he's preaching from Exodus 33 during his revival series. I've heard of that revival series. I don't know if it's something I read or listened to or if it's famous, but anyways, let's give it a listen.
What these people suddenly came to realize was that because of their sin and because of God's view of sin, God was withholding his presence from them. And was
So I just read this in Psalm 107 this morning about because of transgression and because of sin, we're separated from God. And it's when we become desperate and cry out to him, then he sends his word and restores us. But it's just a good idea about how when we're feeling as the born again, like this, there's times where you feel distant from God, where you feel separated, where your heart feels hardened, or you feel like his face is turned away from you, and there's just a cloud of spiritual darkness and fog on you. And it's incredibly grievous, and sin can be the cause of that. Disobedience to God can be the cause of that.
Telling them to go up to the land of Canaan without him, sending an angel, but he wasn't going to come. The God who entered among them as it were in Egypt, the God whose power they felt as they were traveling in the direction of the Red Sea, the God who was there amongst them with Pi-hahiroth and Baal-zephon, one on each side and the hosts of Pharaoh behind and the Red Sea in front, the God who had come down and had divided the sea, this mighty presence, this holy, glorious God, he's no longer going to be with them. That was the thing, that filled them with dismay. That was the thing that alarmed and caused these people to mourn. When the people heard these evil tidings, and that was the evil tidings, I will not go up in the midst of thee, for thou art a stiff-necked people, lest I consume thee in the way. What troubled them was not the threat of being consumed, but that God had said, I'm not coming with you. You've got to go up alone. I'm sending an angel, but I am not coming. Oh, this is a tremendous thing. This is the heart of the whole matter.
That's a terrifying thought. Imagine the Lord saying, I'm not going to be with you on this. I won't. Like, for those of us who know his presence, the thought of being without him is the most dreadful thought that you can imagine. Death and chaos and confusion is on every side of us. And it's only his presence that keeps us safe. It's only his presence that lights our way and gives us that internal peace and contentment and joy, knowing we're in the safety of his hands. To have him remove himself would just cast you into just complete despair. It's a terrifying thought.
Men and women, when they're truly awakened, begin to realize that there is nothing which is so serious as to be without the presence of God.
Yep.
Do you get its full force? God was sending them to the promised land. God was saying, go up. I promised you the land of Canaan. I'm going to give it to you. You shall go to the land flowing with milk and honey. I'll send my angel before you to destroy these enemies, these Amorites, these Hittites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hivites, and Jebusites. Go on. Go up to your promised land. I brought you out of the captivity of Egypt. I'm sending you on. Go ahead. Lead them, Moses. I'll send an angel with you. And the people said, no. If you're not coming with us, we don't want to go.
That's an amazing thought too. Like, if we had the opportunity to have everything we need, riches, a big house, a big car, food and the bills paid, and family and friends, but the presence of the Lord wasn't going to be with us. If we were going to inherit all things, but his presence wasn't there, for the born again, there's still terror in that. Because the devil roams about, because our sin lurks in our heart, because failure and death and chaos is all around us. We need him. We need his wisdom. We need his guidance. We need his holiness. He shows us what is right and what is pure and what is good, and how to walk in it and not fall to the side. No matter the circumstances, you can have the best circumstances around you. You're still walking on a dangerous precipice on which you could fall to either side at any moment, and it's only his presence that keeps us on the straight and narrow and keeps us safe. So even if we were to get everything without his presence, it's terrifying.
Now that's the essence of spiritual understanding. And that's the thing, my dear friends, that you and I have got to come to. You see, here were the people who suddenly awakened, came to this tremendous, profound realization that to be given every other blessing is of no value if God doesn't do you. What's the value of Canaan? What's the value of milk and honey? What's the value of having possessions if you are not with us? They saw that the realization of the presence of God, having his fellowship and company, was infinitely more important than everything else. Need I apply this to the church today? You can have successes over your enemies, you know, without this great realization of God in the midst. Oh, yes. There are angels who can do that for us. Destroy certain of our enemies. Take us to the land. We're in Canaan. We've got the milk and honey. Yes, everything seems to be all right. There's an appalling verse in Psalm 106, where we are told that the children of Israel, God granted them their requests, but sent leanness into their souls. You can have an outward prosperity and affluence. The church may seem to be doing remarkably well. Good finances, good figures, successes, conversions, enemies defeated, everything going well. And the newspapers report it. The Christian newspapers report it. It all seems to be marvelous. But the appalling question I ask is this: is God in the midst? Is he really amongst us? Are we aware, as we should be, of his glorious presence? That's the thing that got these people. And what they said in effect was, Canaan's no use to us, milk and honey are of no value. We're not interested in these enemies. We want you. Oh, says the psalmist, it is for thee I cry out as the hart panteth after the water brooks. So panteth my soul after thee, O God. He's not after blessings, he's after God, the living God. Yes, says Paul, oh, I've been a successful evangelist, I've done so much, but oh, I'm not satisfied, that I might know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings. No, they said, we can't go on without you. The presence of God is essential. They came to that realization. And as I say, their realization was that no outward prosperity and no type of success can compensate for the absence of God. What shall it profit a man though he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Christian people, I'm not asking you this morning whether you're living a good life. I'm not asking you whether you're happy. I'm not asking you whether you read your Bible and whether you pray. I'm not asking you whether you're active in church work or in some other form of Christian activity. What I'm asking you is this. Do you know God? Is He with you? Is He in your life? Is He in the camp? Or are you traveling on with God as it were somewhere in the distance, given strength and power by His angel and by His leader and so on? But the question is, what of you in your personal relationship and your personal dealings?
All right, so that was a very good little clip there. An appropriate time in my life, because I've been coming into a season here of desiring more of His presence, like finding that it's we have this unfortunate danger of comfort in America. Like when we're like, if you're depressed or down or angry or whatever, if you're not content, there's a multitude of comforts that we can draw from, whether that's scrolling on the phone or turning on the TV or just anything. It can be books or family or friends or possessions or money or going to the casino or playing a card game or anything. There's a multitude of comforts available that we will cling to rather than going to the Lord and seeking His presence, because seeking His presence takes time and effort, whereas these other things are instant gratification. The problem is they don't last. They're not sustaining. They're instantaneous gratification, and then we go right back to that previous state that we were in, whatever it was, depression or anger or whatever. And so then we have to seek something else again. And so, but the reality is, if we would go to the Lord and we would seek His presence, in His presence is fullness of joy. In Him is a complete satisfaction. But again, it takes effort. It takes time. We have to go in prayer and knock on the door and continue to knock. And so the idea, like for us in this comfort culture, we'd rather take that instant gratification that doesn't satisfy, that doesn't last, rather than to put in the effort and go get the real thing. And so I'm at this point in my life where I'm coming to realize all these other things are empty. Like Ecclesiastes, Solomon tested everything and said nothing is worth anything. It's all pointless. It's all worthless. The only thing that matters is fear God and keep His commandments. So we try all these other things, and I'm at this point where there's no joy in them. There's no satisfaction in them anymore. And so I know I want the presence of the Lord. I'm just so spiritually lazy that I won't go seek that presence. And so, but I'm coming to, we taste and see how good the Lord is when we do get those little glimpses of it. It's so satisfies. It's so overwhelming that you start to taste and see, I need that. I need that presence of God. I want that. and that comes through spending time with him in prayer, of seeking his face, and just being satisfied in him. So just an appropriate message. It's like, do we have that presence? Because I often think, I'm looking in my heart going, I do have the presence of the Lord with me because I'm a born again child of God. But often it's like I'm like a kid walking ahead of my dad. I've got him in my peripheral, but I'm doing my own thing. Where the real joy, the real satisfaction is in his arms, to be right with him. And so, like, we need to get that presence. We can't hold God off at a distance and go, okay, good, I know you're there, I know I'm safe, I know I'm good, so now I'm going to go try all these other things, and just looking to make sure he's still there. That's like what a toddler or what a child does. It's we need to come to the point where we say, Lord, I don't want you over there, I want you right here. I want you right here with me in all things, and at all times. And that's convicting, because then it makes you realize, okay, he wouldn't approve of some of these things, so I can't be doing those. So that's that battle of flesh and spirit. The flesh is like, hold on, I still want to do those things. But the spirit is like, no, that this is better. To have the presence of him is better. Anyways, just a good message. Like I say, I'm really enjoying Martyn Lloyd Jones here recently. I hope you do too. And I give him a listen, and take your time with it, because like I say, sometimes it can be hard to maintain focus. Get some of his books. Read. He's one of those few guys. I know some people don't like to read sermons, but my experience is he's one of those guys where his sermons read well. You can read them and you can get like almost the same impact as listening to them. So anyways, that's what I got for you guys today. As always, I appreciate you watching. Lord willing, we'll talk to you next time. I love you guys. Later.